Decisions are just being unforgivable. Nobody's above the club, and sometimes a sacking needs to be done.
But we haven't won anything. Who's better to do that than the most decorated manager in football?
A lot of players are just not good enough.
Do you think Jose is tarnishing it, or do you think he's going to make him a better player?
He will give 150% to make something work.
So, welcome everyone. We have just done a part 1 on this little podcast with Sam Chigback, as you can see. Talking about what happened with Poch and that whole scenario last year, whether it was the right decision, wrong decision, all sorts. We're talking all sorts over there. And I finished off by saying whether I was Poch in or Poch out. And Sam is now going to give his opinion. So what were you leading up to that whole situation?
Yeah, just very quickly to sum it up. I didn't like with you. I didn't want it to end badly with Poch, but I just knew it was going to happen. And then I just felt like I didn't. End of the day, we're Tottenham Hotspur, not Pochettino FC, so I didn't want us to get sentimental and get so attached to him that we end up being like those, Muppets down the road with Arsene Wenger. So I didn't want it to be the same thing. So I thought, you know what, the decisions are just being unforgivable. Nobody's above the club, and sometimes a sacking needs to be done. And if it's down to Pochettino just not being able to perform something right with what he's got, and the boy ain't going to spend him, what's the point in keeping hold of him? Might as well just go for a new change. And now we have Jose Mourinho as our manager. But again, I do wish Poch the best of luck, and maybe one day he might manage us again, just like what you said yesterday.
So yeah, you briefly mentioned it just then about the man, Jose Mourinho, who we now have as our manager. Obviously very costly. But we're going to go into a bit like whether you think he's the right guy for the job. What do you think he can bring to Spurs? I know we've all got interesting opinions on that matter. I'm sure you guys do as well. So yeah, I want to get straight into it. I want to get your opinions on Jose Mourinho, whether you thought that was the right call or not for a new manager.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you this right now. It still feels a bit like a simulation of Jose Mourinho managing us. I just remember on day one, I just couldn't believe it. Him with his silvery hair, with his smug smile, and he's wearing the Tottenham crest on his shirt. I felt that was weird. I want to give him a chance, to be honest. The problem is though, if things go really wrong, Pochettino was all about those positive vibes and just trying not to show any negativity. Mourinho is just a polar opposite. He'll rip into players, he'll criticise the board, just like what he's done with Man United. But weirdly enough, though, we ain't really seen the worst. We've seen a bit of it, but you can just tell that's not going to be his worst. And it isn't quite as bad as how the media sometimes make it out to be. Obviously, of course, his first victim, I should say, is Ndombele with his fitness. But yeah, in terms of where I am with Jose Mourinho, I do want to give him a chance. I think it's a bit too reactionary to sack him. I think we should ignore the past about him managing Chelsea. This is going to be Mourinho's last chance, I feel, as a manager to be in the top flight of football. So if he wants to do something, he needs to do it now. But it's also the board has got to do something as well in terms of contribution to funding Mourinho. And if they do that, then it's over to Mourinho to see if he's got the right decisions that he's brought into this team, and if we can get back on track with what Pochettino left behind. Because ideally, that's why we hired Mourinho. We hired Mourinho so he could finish off what Poch started. And that's just really the test, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I think I agree with you in terms of I think the media and whatnot are making it way worse than it is. I do feel like he's slightly different than what he used to be. I mean, he's not as rash as he was. You should see some of his previous interviews and stuff back in the day when he was Chelsea and Inter and all sorts. I think he was much worse back then than he is now. But yeah. I agree, man. I think for me, Poch obviously was the guy that changed us, made us a Champions League team, a better team. But the only thing he couldn't do was win us a trophy. And for Spurs, that is now literally the only thing left to do. We've got the new stadium. Trophy. We've got the new the training ground. We've got some top players. We've got Champions League football, but we haven't won anything. And who's better to do that than the most decorated manager in football? That was probably their view at the time. It was like, okay, let's bring in a blockbuster manager, a massive name who's a notorious winner. Doesn't matter how he does it, he gets it done. And if that's what we need to do to win a trophy, then that's what we need to do. But obviously, a lot of fans are very frustrated with his style of play, as it seemed very negative and quite defensive. But I wanted to get your thoughts on his style and what you think of the football.
I actually wanted to touch on what you said, because you said that we've got a new stadium, and you also said we've got some top players. That you see on Twitter, there's a lot of disagreements about that, because well, I'm not going to mention the name of the podcast that is on Twitter, which I think I'm due an interview with them, or like in terms of like going on their show, because I have applied. Mm-hmm. But according to some Spurs fans, the whole team minus, I don't know, Kane, Son, and I think that's about it, just needs to be scrapped. All not good enough. This, that, the other. For me personally, I feel like I said in the previous podcast, a lot of players are just not good enough. They've gone downhill. They've gone out of date. And, you know, like, I argue actually with Dan a lot, actually, because I will admit that when I get negative, I can be really, really negative. I do hold my hands up to that. And, I'm not going to swear, but I say like the players, right, the disagreements is that, so my mate Dan, who you've seen on this channel, would always say the players are average, but I say no, the players are crap. Like that's the level of disagreements we have, and if average means crap, then average isn't good enough for me. Basically,
well, either way, average shouldn't be good enough anyway. If you're trying to compete for the Premier League or the Champions League or even the FA Cup, like that's not going to win you any of these. No, I'm agreeing. I do agree with you there that the not anymore, at least anyway, a lot of the players aren't good enough. Most notably the two centre-backs, the Belgian duo, which were the best defenders in the league at one point, in my opinion.
Yeah. I might give Toby Alderweireld a chance, but I think for Jan Vertonghen...
The thing is, you say that, are you only giving him a chance because he signed a new contract? Because I'm not being funny. Like, even since then, he's still been completely out of form. Like,
he's been out of form, but I feel like if he was partnered up with another young and decent centre-back, then maybe it would be different. For Jan Vertonghen, I feel like individually as a centre-back, I don't know, there's debates on if you're Toby or Jan. Obviously, it's not rocket science. I'm more Toby Alderweireld than Jan Vertonghen. Mm-hmm. Because I remember when we signed Toby Alderweireld, you know, Jan Vertonghen was regarded as a fairly okay centre-back. But then when Toby stepped in, you know,
just brought it to
changed.
Another level.
Yeah. And I feel like Toby, the same thing now has to happen to Toby, where someone steps in and then Toby is as class as that centre-back he steps in. So, no, I'm willing to give Toby Alderweireld a chance. Nothing to do with the contract, but on the basis of I've seen the best of him and I don't think his time is up yet. He's a bit, I don't know how old is he, like 29 or 30?
I think he just turned 30. Yeah, I think he turned 30.
Yeah, I feel like he's got at least a season in him left if we were to make that rapid change of a new centre-back. Maybe Davison Sanchez and Toby Alderweireld with some new fullbacks might be able to do it, but I don't know. But the point
or
is,
even a defensive mid, because we've been missing a defensive mid for a while, and that's left our defence in a lot of danger. Not having that cover in front of them. So
well, we could have a defensive mid. It's just the problem is if Ndombele's put as a defensive mid, he doesn't run into those areas, and that's wait, was he playing as a centre mid or a defensive mid? I can't even remember. Well, it was against Burnley.
Supposedly centre mid, but had the defensive mid duties. Like he was supposedly the defensive mid out of the ones that were on the field. So and it's good that you brought that up actually, because I was going to try and obviously bring this back to Jose a bit and just his coherence with the players. And like you said, the most noted one is Ndombele. What do you make of that relationship between the two of them? Do you believe Ndombele can be a good player? Do you think maybe is Jose? Do you think Jose is tarnishing it, or do you think he's going to make him a better player?
Because this is the way I see it. There's no denial that Ndombele has got natural talent. Like I'm not disputing that, but you need a work ethic, and he ain't got that. And you know, look at all the other footballers who are like world class and doing bits at the moment, like Ronaldo. You know, Ronaldo was born with absolute brilliant natural talent, but if he focused on the natural talent alone, he wouldn't be where he is now. And that's why his work ethic was what got him to where he is now. With Ndombele, I'm sorry, but lazy as hell. You just like what I brought up with Burnley. There were so many areas where you just looked at his body language and he was like, do I have to run there? Do I have to drop back? And when he actually won the ball, he didn't lose it once. So you know what the missing piece is. It's the work ethic.
He was like that at Southampton when we played Southampton at home,
I believe, was it the replay of the FA Cup, I think it was?
Oh, running for 10 minutes and then out of breath.
Yeah, and then he was like chasing the players and could never catch up to him. And whether it's obviously his work ethic or his fitness, I mean, clearly there's an issue there with him.
But for me, like as well, I feel like he's just been played out of position. Like he's not a defensive midfielder. I think if we had a defensive midfielder alongside him, that could bring his talents out.
Because then you have the person that is the workhorse, the one that's going to chase after the ball, the one that's going to stop players from running through. And then almost like Lo Celso is doing now, you give the ball to Ndombele. And like you said, he doesn't lose the ball once he has it.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's obviously as a footballer, he needs to work on that himself anyway, his work ethic. But as a team, I feel like we need that player alongside him to bring out his true potential. And I think Mourinho can see that. A lot of fans right now think that Mourinho hate Ndombele, which I think is the complete opposite.
If you look at Mourinho's track record with every other team he's been at, he's always had that one player that he thought was going to be insane and he gave them tough love. He did that with Samuel Eto'o for Inter Milan, dropped him so many times until he learnt how to play his game.
Yeah.
And then what did he do? They ended up winning the Champions League.
And that's what I like.
He did that at Porto. He did that with Chelsea. He did that at Real Madrid. He always does this at every club.
And that's what I like.
So clearly, it's an indication that Ndombele's a baller. Like he can see that, and he's just giving him the tough love to bring him to that next level.
And that's what I like about Mourinho, which is why I was quite welcoming with the fact that he'd come here, because if he wants to get things done, he doesn't muck about. He doesn't take the mick. He will. Yeah. He will give 150% to make something work. Now, I have a theory based on Ndombele's blatant laziness that we've seen. And I feel like there's just a habit at Tottenham where players have done that. I'm not even just talking about with Eriksen under Pochettino. I'm talking about players that have just done this in the past and then think that they can get away with it, Like Adel Tarabat, most skillful player without a doubt. His balling skills was fantastic. But he didn't, not just at Tottenham, but with QPR as well, and then eventually going into the Benfica reserve team, he didn't look after his dietary or his fitness, and just, didn't really, take it seriously. And with Hossam Ghali as well, which eventually led him to actually chucking his shirt at Martin Jol. So there's this long-standing habit at this club where there's always that one lazy player that just somehow gets away with it. But now that Mourinho is there, he's putting his foot on it. And that was the issue with Pochettino, because I felt like he was giving players too many chances.
Almost too much respect when he's supposed to be the boss.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas
and you get the opposite with Mourinho. Like like he's present. He's present. Like,
I'll say, the only thing I can say about Eriksen is at least he didn't, storm off or refuse to go onto the pitch. But other than that, though, there was no physical attributes offered from Eriksen. Never beat the first man, and it looked like he didn't care as well. Like there was no emotion. Furthermore as well, he could have cost us that game at Man City with the same old mistakes again of just taking the piss with the pass. But thankfully that goal was rightly ruled out because Aguero was offside when he went past Ben Davis, I believe. So, the one positive thing I can say about Mourinho is that he is clamping down on the bad eggs and laziness of some of the players that are in our squad. But the question is, though, right, he's clamping it down. Is he doing it right? Well, recently with, the rules that have been implemented with lockdown and government guidelines, you see, I don't know where I stand with it because there was photos of, I think, either Ndombele and Aurier and Sessegnon, or one of them wasn't there.
It was Ndombele, Sanchez and Sessegnon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was those.
Well, all right, he's being a douchebag because he's not respecting government guidelines. But he isn't taking any excuses to think, well, that doesn't mean that I've got some time off and not work. He's still carrying on working, and that's the one side of it I can maybe give some respect to without getting in trouble with what I say. Yeah, if I speak, I'm in trouble. But yeah.
Well, with the 3 players that need improving as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, I can just give that respect, basically, in terms of, he's not taking any excuses and he still wants to work. Obviously, of course, being a douchebag for not following government guidelines. I think, for me personally, though, it's just... I feel like with Mourinho, it's the last chance to try and fix what we once were in terms of title contending team, consistent top 4, which of course we're not going to get unless this season somehow does get voided. It's the last chance, and the board is our real enemy, but at the same time, managers do have to take a responsibility.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we've brought him in for that reason, the reason to win the trophies. And clearly, if he can't deliver that, then he wasn't the right man. But all of that will be in hindsight. Like, you can always say, "Oh, we shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that." But when you think back at the time to his appointment, who was available? There wasn't really anyone great. And then if we didn't get Mourinho, then Arsenal would have done, without a doubt. And I'm not being funny. A lot of us would probably be kicking ourselves in the teeth if we saw that Mourinho was at Arsenal.
Yeah.
So I think at the time, for me at least anyway, it was the right appointment. But I just don't like the fans that are currently just jumping on his back.
Yeah, Tottenham fans are the worst at that,
he's managed us for 6 months. Not even that. November, December, January, February, and a bit of March. So 5 months he's managed to manage Spurs with countless number of injuries, with players we know we have to move on and get new ones in anyway. I don't understand why they're jumping on his back so quickly without taking the circumstance into consideration. In my opinion, I'm not going to judge him at all until I've given him the season and he's got the players he wanted to get. Or at least the players we might get.
Just on an irrelevant note, because speaking of which a season, we actually haven't played a full season at our new stadium.
I know, it's mental.
It's shocking. But yeah, like you said, the fans, particularly in this club, are very quick to... I don't know what it is. Like,
I feel like
they're very quick to jump on him. Maybe it's just down to the fact that he once managed Chelsea and there was always going to be that doubt. But I think it was Wolves after Jimenez basically scored the 3rd goal, I think. Mm-hmm. And I just remember there was fans behind me screaming, "F off back to Portugal!"
Yeah.
And all that. And I'm like... And the funny thing is, people in the comment section somehow thought that was me. I mean, how my voice sounds anything like a 40-year-old Eastern London accent.
When it was when your lips weren't moving either, probably.
No, it was just when the camera was facing the pitch side that happened.
I see.
But yeah, like, it was just, yeah. But anyway, like, the fans are quick to jump on him too much. People have got to understand... It's the same problems you can bring any manager in who would be willing to take the job and they'll face the same problems.
All of them will.
Which is the board. Whether you had Pep, Nuno, Ancelotti, like Wenger, it doesn't matter who you bring into this club right now, the club is broken. The club is broken, and like until we fix that, which we need to do in the summer, it's a tough job for any manager out there, and I don't envy anyone that has to manage us right now, to be honest with you. For me, I'm just going to give him the time that he fully deserves. Like, we have no right, a team that hasn't won a trophy since 2008, to have a go at someone who's won more than our club. No matter what his philosophy is or may be, whether it's changed, whether it hasn't. So we deserve to give him that chance at least, especially with potentially some new players that we might be getting. And as well, for me, it's past the football side as well. Like I said, I called him before a blockbuster manager, which is what he is. When you hear the name Jose Mourinho, instantly players around the world are going to be attracted to play for him. Some of the biggest players in the world have played for him, and some of them want to play for him because they know what a good manager he used to be, whether he still is or not. We've got all the ingredients there. We've got a manager with a big name. We've got one of the best stadiums in the world. We did have Champions League football, and whether we do get it or not is yet to be decided by the league. We have all these little ingredients, and we're just not getting those players because we won't spend.
So for me, it ultimately always comes back to the board in this kind of situation. As frustrating as it is, and that's the last thing that's going to change at a club
until they decide to sell up. So we're in a bit of a catch-22.
We never, like I probably said it in part 1, we never go the full hog. You know, we don't complete the full circle of what needs to be done, and it's just so frustrating. Like, what's the point of, and I'll say it again, what's the point of getting Mourinho if you're not going to financially back his name?
Yeah.
Never mind his signings, his name. He deserves to try and actually sign some players with big names, and we just lack in doing that. And
bearing in mind, this is a manager that complained at Man United's board and they spent over 100 million on Lukaku and Fred.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Yeah,
saying that, I'm pretty sure like he was complaining because those weren't the players he wanted or something. I think Matic was the only player he actually wanted that they managed to get, so to speak. But again, they backed him and that didn't work out. But then also, Marcus Rashford recently has come out with comments saying he's developed so much under a player because of Mourinho, which is what people wouldn't have thought.
That's the thing then.
So I think fans, media, whatever, we're way too quick to judge because we're basing off of the past, because of hearsay, this, that, and the other, rather than actual experiences. So I think we'll have to wait there. And I think
I was just saying,
moving on to probably the final part of this, and just looking a bit to the future. What do you think is going to happen with Mourinho and Spurs over the next couple of seasons? What do you think he can do for us or can't do for us?
I can't predict these things. Like, you tell me last season, after, or the season before, of getting knocked out from Juventus and our top 4 in doubts, will we ever see a better Champions League run? I'd say lucky to maybe get to a semis and that's it, or a quarter final again or something like that. I don't know, but I feel like there's something there, but it just isn't really visible to us yet. Like, because obviously, we're under lockdown. We've expressed further doubt. But, we're signing players like Bergwijn and, having Lo Celso on a full-time basis now. It's going to be little steps. And I feel like, it won't be the next season either where something's done. Because you can't, in any cycle of football, unless you've got a sheik or a Russian oligarch that buys your club, nothing's going to be done within a season.
Yeah,
it will have to take. We will have to put up with 2 seasons of some progress and let the progress build, and then maybe, hopefully, just like with Pochettino's start, we can actually see something under Mourinho. I feel like Mourinho's still got something to offer, and he's not backing down.
Yeah, I agree.
Chucking the white towel in. Us as Spurs fans have just got to be patient, but the board have also got to look at themselves in the mirror and change their ways and actually stop, how do I say this without swearing? Stop creaming themselves over profit. Stop creaming themselves over a stadium. Because at the end of the day, that stadium is a display. We want to see the real deal, the football, and a new style of play.
What's going to bring them more money than becoming one of the best clubs in the world by actually winning things, right?
We've become like, where are we now? I think we've gone above Chelsea in terms of profits made in the last couple.
We're first as the most valued club now, apparently. And we're also, you're right, we're above Chelsea of the revenue earned and the profits made last year in the Deloitte thing. We're like seventh in Europe or something like that, and the top in London.
Annoys me.
So we've got the revenue, we've got all that, and then they're just not reimbursing it, and they're not reallocating that back into the club in terms of players.
All right, I'm no economist or I'm no businessman, but I've got the feeling, and I might be stupid and ignorant, so just forgive me, but I've got the feeling that we built up so money based on building a profit on the stadium and based on basically spending all.
Yeah,
and then that money adds up, and we've got. What is Levy saving up for? To leave some money on a will for his grandkids or something? Well, he's not that old, but I don't.
They're probably trying to make.
I don't get it, but
they're just trying to make as much money as possible.
I don't get what the board operates. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's it. Really, I think it's just they're just trying to make as much money as possible, and then probably looking to sell up at some point. Once
I
they,
don't get how the board operates. Like, I don't know what goes on through their minds. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
it would be great to sit in
Mourinho
one of their
chance.
board meetings just to understand what. That's
All
we want as Spurs fans is transparency. Just let us know what you want so we can understand better. That's it.
Well, there's Amazon Prime series coming out. So maybe we might
I'm
see
actually
something.
kind of looking forward to seeing that, and then also not, because apparently they've got the sacking of Poch in there, which is going to make me lose my mind. I think I'm going to have to turn it off.
Why have we put Amazon Prime series? I don't get it. Like, do you even get that much money out of it? And even if you do,
they're probably spending millions on us to have that.
Selling your soul to Amazon.
Yeah.
Like,
soon come Amazon Arena.
Yeah.
God.
Oh my God. I think, I don't know, unless you've got something else to say in the podcast, I've pretty much
I think we've covered pretty much everything. I think we're both we agree on the most part, I think, about Jose, that we need to give him the time. There's stuff missing, but there's also a lot that he could give us as well. And ultimately it comes down to the boards to provide that for the club. I think is what our main conclusion is. But yeah, I appreciate you guys hopping by. We said this over on the previous episode as well, but myself and Sam and and one of 4 other YouTubers have set up Offsiders YouTube channel.
Big up Offsiders.
Big up Offsiders. There's a group of us making content together, especially while in quarantine, but we'll be continuing it after, when we're allowed to actually see each other, and the response has been incredible from all of you guys. So if you want to go have a look, see what kind of content we're making, check out some more football stuff, then head to the link in the description. Obviously, Sam's channel will also be there to check that out.
And subscribe to PewDiePie.
Subscribe to PewDiePie. Yes. All right, thanks for stopping by. Let us know if you agree with everything we said, anything we said, or nothing at all. And make sure to leave a like, and I shall see you guys next time. Peace.
No, there ain't no stopping us. Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star.